Hey, ready to go. Like we are live now. So, hello everyone. This is once again the Stay Can Show. Stay Can stands for Standing Together Against Child Abuse and Neglect. And for um, this session, we are looking at promoting the well-being of children, the importance of balanced diet. So we're going to look at the importance of balanced diet. Obviously, as parents, as caregivers, as adults, we know that balanced diet is so important for children. But I believe that even within that, we've got a number of questions and would want to ask just to make sure that we're doing the right thing, and then just to make sure that our questions and any pertinent, like anything bothering our minds, we find answers to. And again, we want you to by all means contribute to the discussion. So please stay with us and let's do this together. We've got the expert here, so be rest assured that we've got the people who know what they are talking about. So we'll go straight in, and as we usually do, our panel members will introduce themselves. So can we start with Dr. Habiba Osei-Kwesi, please?
Thank you, Habiba Osei-Kwesi. So I am a research fellow at the University of Sheffield, with expertise in nutrition, public health nutrition, and also the founder of Sahara Nutrition. That is a social enterprise, a community enterprise that is meant to provide nutrition support to people of African descent living in the UK and beyond. So yeah, briefly, that's who I am.
Wow, thank you for that. So we will move on to Dr. Robert Akparibo. Could you please introduce yourself to our panel members?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you got my name very right. So my name is Robert Aparibo, and I just asked Hiba. I work at the University of Sheffield as a lecturer, but also I'm a registered nutritionist, and I co-founder of Sahara Nutrition.
Okay, so co-founder of Sahara Nutrition. Just before we go any further, Dr. Habiba Osei-Kwesi, are you able to just tell us a bit about Sahara Nutrition, because it sounds exciting? I think Dr. Osei-Kwesi, your mic is not working.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, it's working now. Yeah.
Yeah. So just call me Araba. Fine.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes, we actually yet to launch Sahara Nutrition, but we've already started working, even though it's not really launched. But our goal is to empower people of African descent living, especially in the UK, through nutrition education, so not just providing nutrition education, but also supporting people so that they are able to manage their diet-related conditions properly in the community. Because at the moment, what we have is usually at a GP, with clinical ones, we don't have the community nutrition support. So we are a group of nutrition professionals, so nutritionists, registered nutritionists, dietitians, public health experts who have come together, and this is what we want to do. We want to give back to the Black community and support them, disseminate research, because most of us are researchers, so when we realize there's a lot of misinformation out there, so we want to be able to support our community by telling them that this is the latest information, answering their questions, anything to do with nutrition. We are here to support people of African descent in the UK and beyond. Yes.
Wow, this is exciting. Wow. And we hope to have you more on the show so we can learn more from what you're doing and from your amazing work. Yes. So we'll go straight in. We're talking about balanced diet. We're talking about the importance of balanced diet, to, like, for children. And I believe that we are all promoting, we are all campaigning, championing, the fact that, children need to eat nutritional meals, because this is good for the body, this is good for their development. In terms of a balanced diet, what do we really mean by a balanced diet? Araba, is it okay to come to you if we say a balanced diet? What do we exactly mean by that?
Okay, so this would more like a recap, because I believe that for most of us, we are actually taught in the basic school what a balanced diet is. So that hasn't changed. It is just eating a variety of meals, eating a variety, from all the 5 food groups, making sure you eat a variety in order to maintain a healthy weight or to promote health. Simply put, emphasis is making sure you get a variety. You're consuming enough from all the food groups in the right proportions, because each of them has a proportion that you should have. So making sure you're having it in the right proportion to maintain a healthy weight, to promote health and prevent diseases. Simply put, that's what we mean by a balanced meal.
Wow. So making sure you're eating all that you need to eat, really, all the good protein, vegetables, fruits, and whatever in the right proportion.
Right proportion, yes. And in the UK, we are guided by the Eat Well guide. So making sure that you follow the Eat Well guide. We have dietary recommendations all over the world. We in the UK follow the Eat Well guide. So making sure you're following the proportion that it is telling us to follow. That is, if you are not sick, if you don't have any conditions, because if you have other conditions, then your case will be different. Okay, so if you are okay, you don't have any conditions, then you need to follow what the Eat Well guide is telling or providing us to do.
Okay, so if Araba is saying that in the right proportion, I mean, Robert, what do we really mean? I mean, does it mean that, you have to make sure that you have a bit of vegetables, a bit of fruits, a bit of this, a bit of protein, carbohydrates? I mean, if you concentrate only on carbohydrates, then, I mean, what does the right proportion really mean over here?
Yeah, thank you. That's right. So when we say the right proportion, sometimes it's very difficult to explain this in lay terms to people, because what is the right proportion? But I mean, like Hiba has rightly said, the Eat Well guide has, it has a clear direction of what proportions mean. So depending on the type of food that you want to eat, you can actually get the recommendations there, what they mean by proportions. But of course, we have the 5 food, the food groups, the 5 food groups that everybody, I mean, when we're in primary school or even JSS, or even SSS, or the senior high schools, we're taught that we have food groups. So within these food groups, so we have the starchy carbohydrate foods, we have the oils and fatty foods, we have the fruits and vegetables. I mean, water is now a nutrient. So I mean, so sometimes when we talk, we don't mention water, but water is an important. So we have the proteins, then we also have food that give us the vitamins and the minerals. So all these food groups, you need to have some portions that at the end of the day, you are not eating one more than the other. So the recommendations that you eat, you have the proportions of each of these food groups, so that at the end of the day, you have a well-balanced meal that will give you all the essential nutrients that you need to be able to function the way you need to function, especially for children. I think I really like the fact that you're focusing on children, because children are the future, are our future. And, the phrase that catch them young is very important, and we need to really emphasize on this. So children particularly need very important nutrients to be able to grow, because I mean, adults, we have probably stopped growing and we need to maintain our system. So we may be looking for foods that would help us maintain our bodies and probably live longer. For children, they are still growing, so they still need to strengthen their bones. They still need to grow in height, and so some of these nutrients are very, very essential for them to be able to fulfill this growth requirements. So for nutrients like minerals and vitamins, they are particularly important for kids to be able to develop. And so that is, so in a lay way, that is how, you know, the balanced diet that's how, you know, we can talk about when we say balanced diet.
Wow, thank you.
I just add a bit to it. Yeah. Thank you, Robert, for that. So in terms of the Eat Well guide, you know, sometimes, and I always like to say that there's a generic one, you know, when you talk about the proportion, where people usually say that if you have a plate, make sure that half of your plate comprises fruits and vegetables. Then so half is fruits and vegetables. Then 1/4 of the plate could be your starchy foods, and then the other one, you know, so you are divided into two. Half is fruits and vegetables.
Oh, okay.
Divided into two, and then you have one column being your starchy carbohydrates, and then the other one being your lean proteins. Okay, but the Eat Well guide kind of doesn't do it that way, and because we are in the UK, I would like to use that, because, you know, this is what should guide us. So if you look at the Eat Well guide, it says that 1/3 of what you eat should comprise 1/3 of what you eat. You know, so this one applies to children and adults as well. 1/3 of what you eat should comprise of your whole grains, and then your starchy carbohydrates, you know. So talk of, for us in the African community, that would comprise your cassava, your plantain, your, you know, potatoes, your brown rice. 1/3 of that should be these foods. Then the other 1/3 would be your fruits and vegetables. So your 5 a day, according to the Eat Well guide. Okay, so 1/3 is this carbs we talked about. The other 1/3 would be your 5 a day, your fruits and vegetables. So you look at a circle. Picture a circle. If people can just Google what the Eat Well guide looks like, you know, their pictures. So the yellow part comprises of these carbs I talked about. The green part comprises the fruits and vegetables. The other parts comprises a number of stuff. So you have your meat, fish, eggs, you know, not taking all the rest of the parts of the Eat Well guide, just a small section of that, what is left. Then you have a very tiny bit that also comprises your dairy products, so your milk, your cheese, and then the smallest part, you know, comprises your fats and oil. Okay, so the Eat Well guide does this to just guide us. To let us know that, you know, so the fat and oil is really very tiny if you look at that circle. You know, so the meaning of this is that you don't need too much fat. You do need fat and oil, but it has to be that small. Okay, the dairy product is not as big as your fruit and vegetables. So again, that is telling you that your fruits and vegetables should be more than your dairy products. It's the same with meat. The meat, the fish, the eggs also. If you look at the size that it fits, it's not as big as your fruits and vegetables. Okay, it used to be a plate in the UK, but it was changed because I think people felt like it confused people. People thought that at each meal, I'm supposed to make sure that I have all these. But the Eat Well guide is flexible. It works. What it says is that it is not possible that at each meal, like maybe breakfast, lunch, and supper, you'll be able to meet all these. So let this guide you for the day. If you're not able to have all these for your breakfast, try and have it for your lunch or during the day or even for your week. Okay, so it's, as much as we encourage people to eat this at every meal, it is practical. It tries it knows that people are sometimes working and may not be able to get this at each meal. So it is just there to guide you that if you can't get it for your breakfast, try and get it during the day or even during the week. Make sure your carbs just comprise 1/3 of what you consume, and not half or not, 3/4 like what we often do in the African community. Yeah. Sorry.
Wow. That is very explanatory. So in terms of, talking about still on, the subject of a balanced diet, nutritional meal, somebody would ask, why is a balanced diet important for children? Why is this important for children at all? And, therefore, why should we even be talking about it? Going back to, Araba, what would be your response to this? Why is balanced diet important for children?
Right. So diet is important for everyone. Start with that. Okay. But then when it comes to children, it is even more important because what they eat matters not just now, but also for later. Okay. What they eat affects them not just now as children, but it also has consequences for later on in life when they become adults. And I'll touch on some, and maybe Robert can add some to it. So when people don't eat well, you are said to be malnourished. We malnutrition. Now, malnutrition, there can be in various forms. There are about 3 different types of malnutrition. We have underweight, we have micronutrient malnutrition, and then we have overnutrition, which includes overweight and obesity. Okay, so when we talk about why it is important for children to eat now, let's take an example of a condition that what could happen if children are not eating well: micronutrient deficiency. So if children are not eating properly, they could get iron deficiency anemia. If you're not eating enough fruits and vegetables, you have not eaten enough iron-rich foods, a child could suffer from anemia. And truly, a lot of people suffering from iron deficiency anemia in the UK are said to be people of lower socioeconomic status, which includes people from our community. So if a child is anemic, when a child goes to school, the child will be weak, the child cannot perform very well, the child will be lethargic. Okay, so that alone affects your child's academic performance. That is what, apart from the health conditions that you can get when you go to school, your child won't. So there are children who are not performing so well in school, and parents don't understand. They're probably not eating properly. They are probably malnourished, especially the micronutrients. I think because people seem to think that this is more of a problem in developing countries, but here people still suffer from micronutrient malnutrition. Okay, so this is one of the immediate consequences of not eating properly. Now, Robert, do you want to come in? Okay.
Well, so earlier on, I talk about the fact that kids are still, they need to grow. And let's just take I just want to add to what Hiba is saying. Let's just take the 3 major, the 3 important food groups. So we have the carbohydrates, we have the protein, and then we have micronutrients. So you need a combination of this, especially for kids. So when kids are growing up, they are very, very active. Except if you have a child who is not active. So if a child is active, they need to up their nutrients intake, especially energy intake, because energy helps them to be able to run around, to be able to play around, and then still have reserves to be able to help them with strength and all that. Then the protein that is in the foods that Hiba was talking about in terms of if you have a balanced diet, help them for their immune system functioning. It helps with their bone development, help with their brain development, and all that. And then the micronutrients help them to be able to grow optimally. So, if some of these nutrients are lacking, so they are not going to grow into their growth, but they're not going to achieve their growth potentials. And if they don't achieve their growth potentials and grow up, there's going to be that kind of deficits in their system. And so, sometimes you see a child who is probably has learning difficulties, not being able to absorb what the teacher is teaching. when they reach, let's say, senior high school. Not because probably they don't know anything, but maybe they did not get the right nutrition. Nutrition is very, very important. I just talk about brain development. So if their brain is not well developed and all that, they will end up facing these problems. So it is very, very important that at the early stages, the children get the right nutrients to be able to function well when they grow up. Then the other thing is, in a lay way, is that, you know, when you expose kids to an early early good food choices, like if you expose them to eating healthily at the young age, they are more likely to develop that kind of habit when they grow up, and so they will make good informed food choices when they grow up. But if they continue to eat maybe one-way foods, so let's say all you give them is just maybe fufu, that's all you give them in the house, they will grow up, you know, learning just one. And children develop to eat different variety of food when within the households they are exposed to this. If they are not exposed to this early, it's going to affect them when they grow up. In terms of healthy food choices.
Yeah. Okay, let me wait for Elsie. I wanted to add a bit more.
Yeah, add a bit more, and then we'll go to some of the questions over here.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I think we've spoken a lot about some of those immediate consequences. Another thing that we need to also talk about is the long-term impact. Okay. So a lot of research out there that tells us that people or children who are not fed properly or malnutrition in infancy, that one actually starts from pregnancy. So during pregnancy, in infancy, and also early childhood, has consequences on health later on in life. So children who are malnourished would be susceptible to conditions, lifestyle conditions like type 2 diabetes, to having high cholesterol, to having hypertension, among other diseases. Okay, so yeah, it is very important that we feed our children very well to avoid some of these long-term health consequences as well. Yeah, that's what I wanted to add to it.
Thank you for that. We've got some of our viewers here. Rosemond is saying that very insightful. Thanks for sharing. We've got Yakpa Gordon is saying that why are children of West African descent more likely to be obese? Well, I'm not sure whether everybody agrees with this, but then it is his view that children of West African descent are more likely to be more obese. I mean, yeah, Araba, do you want to react to this?
So the data in the UK doesn't really differentiate between, it just clumps them together, that children of African origin and, so Black Africans. And indeed, yes, Black Africans tend to have a higher prevalence of overweight and obesity. We have it that the adults tend to have a higher prevalence of overweight and obesity. And honestly, there's so many things that result in this, so you cannot pinpoint one thing, just like all these other conditions that we tend to have a higher prevalence. We cannot actually explain why, whether it's genetic predisposition, but what we do know is that lifestyle plays an important role. Okay, so all these things are multifactorial. There are so many factors that would contribute to overweight and obesity. Okay, but one important thing that explains a lot of the burden is our lifestyle. So lifestyle factors indeed contributes to a higher burden of these diseases. So, and in the UK, it's been established by research that factors like lower socioeconomic status and a lot of the minority ethnic communities, populations tend to be of lower socioeconomic status anyway, so that has been associated with a higher prevalence of overweight and obesity. But then we are not ruling out our genetic predisposition. We are not ruling that out as well, because Black people tend to be heavier than others. Blacks tend to be heavier than the Chinese and the Japanese. Okay, so it's a lot of factors. It's not one.
Wow.
Yeah, so when public health, we coming from a public health point of view, are talking about these issues, we tend to focus on the modifiable factors because there are so many factors contributing. We can't do anything about genetics, okay? So we focus on the lifestyle factors. Lifestyle factors we can do something about, and we all know. So that is what we tend to focus on. Let us try and work on these lifestyle factors and reduce the prevalence and the incidence of overweight and obesity. Okay, because we can't do much about our genetic predisposition.
So the areas of, so of course,
so I think Hiba has just nailed it. Lifestyle, genetic factors, and I think for if you look at the African typical man or typical woman, we tend to have our bodies tend to be much heavier than other ethnic groups, and that is why there's an argument whether even the measure of obesity using one generic measure is the right way to go about it. And I know that for some countries, the Asian countries are beginning to have different measures to to categorize obesity, because if you take a typical African woman, they look very heavy, and so because of that, if you measure their weight and height, and you want to calculate BMI, definitely they will be obese, but they tend to be healthier, isn't it? So we don't know whether genetics. We can just say that the blacks or African, you say West African origin, genetics is the main key disposition. But I think Hiba said that there are multifactorial issues. And I think apart from lifestyle, our eating behaviors are playing a significant role. And I think when I was talking about letting the children begin to cultivate a healthy eating behaviors from the onset would help them when they grow up to make healthier food choices. Because we grew up in homes where eating at any time is, sometimes when even me knowing that some of these things are not good, I eat somewhere, sometimes around 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, when you're hungry, you get up and then go and then looking for food because you are craving for the food. And that is a very dangerous way of, just eating and going to bed without the food digesting. So all that, and if children are watching the way we do things, parents eat that way because they go to work, they come back late, but they are hungry, they have to eat. So the children are watching. Children always watch and practice what their parents do. And research has supported this. So I think that is one of the things that that is impacting on probably widows from West Africa. We are here to probably look for money. Excuse me to use that. And so we work so hard. We go to work, come back late, and we have to eat. And we eat, we go straight to bed. Our children, kind of practice that. And when they grow, that's it. So food choices or food behaviors and food habits play a significant role also.
Thank you, Robert. So ideally, in terms of food behaviors, what would you advise? What time is the latest that a child should eat before going to bed?
Children generally, in the UK here, when you give birth, there's a timetable and then the timetable looks at their ages at which they should go to bed. It looks like those of us from Africa don't even follow that kind of timetable. I didn't know that. My child will go to bed somewhere 11 o'clock because we are watching TV and she's sitting there and watching us. And when you ask her to go to bed, she's not going to go to bed. But let's compare that to our English colleagues. At 8 o'clock, the children are already in bed. So by 5 o'clock, they're eating, and then they can run around. By 7 o'clock, the food is digested, and then they go to bed. But I have friends, African friends, where I go to their houses, and they have to give their children hot chocolate to drink before they go to bed. You can imagine the sugar in hot chocolate, and then the child gets that sugar and goes to bed, and it has an impact. It's going to have an impact on, because they don't do anything. They just eat it and then they go to bed. They drink that sugar and go to bed. Or they do a sandwich, do something like sandwich and give to them. They give them something to eat before they go to bed. That practice needs to stop. So there's no probably cutoff point to give kids foods. But if your child is going to sleep at 8 o'clock, they should.
It seems we've lost Robert.
Am I on? Yeah,
Yes.
I was just trying to say that, he wouldn't mention a specific time, but, the general rule is people should not eat just before they go and sleep. It's advisable that you eat and allow about 2-3 hours for the food to digest before you go and sleep. Not just before. And then, yeah, he was mentioning the fact that a lot of us in the Black community, just before the child goes to sleep, we give the child hot chocolate. Every day giving the child milk and hot chocolate is one of the things that could lead to overweight and obesity. That's, all those sugary drinks every day is not a healthy habit. That's what he was trying to say. I'm sure he'll get it.
Yeah, thank you for that. So still, whilst on obesity, I've pulled this question up. He says, is it only lack of nutrition in our diet that causes child obesity? What would you?
No. So overweight and obesity, like so many other
Was it me? Was it Mike, or is it the whole system?
No, you went off. Yeah. So Araba picked up from where you ended, like where you were. You ended from.
Yeah.
Good.
And I'm just addressing one of the questions. So someone is asking that, is it only nutrition, is lack of nutrition in our diets, that you mean lack of healthy eating that could lead to childhood obesity? No. So I said it earlier that overweight and obesity and other conditions like diabetes, hypertension are have so many causes. So we call them they have multifactorial causes. Okay? They're caused by so many things. One of them is our lifestyle. So lifestyle comprises your eating behaviors, your physical activity level. All these are your lifestyle. Okay. Genetics. There are certain people who have it in their family, so they are predisposed to it. Okay. There are so many things that could result in that. However, as public health experts, because we are public health nutritionists, we have modifiable and non-modifiable factors. We focus on what we can do something about. Okay, so we are talking about overweight and obesity. It is preventable. Largely, about 80% of, so many of the research shows that about 80% of the factors leans towards lifestyle, leans towards our eating behaviors, leans towards our physical activity level, leans towards, the way we live our lives. Okay. So this is what we emphasize on, because if you eat well, you exercise properly, you are not going to gain so much weight. So those other factors are there, but they just predispose you to overweight and obesity. But weight gain is just based on the principle that you eat too much and then you store a lot of calories. That's the principle. You eat so much and you don't burn. Okay, if you eat too much and you store it and you don't burn it, then you are likely to store as weight or fat. Okay, so that's the principle. However, so many other factors can influence this, can predispose you to gain. Okay, and that is why we talk more about these lifestyle factors like eating and in your physical activity level. That's why we focus on it. But we have to acknowledge the fact that there are other factors that would predispose you to overweight.
Yeah, I think we are emphasizing on the nutrition part of it because that is the topic. But I mean, yeah, the other issues that you've talked about, HIPAA covers that. So physical activity, very, very important. And we also already talk about the fact that, the fact that you eat and just go to bed, the food doesn't digest Yeah, even not just digest and used, because you store the rest of the surplus in your stores, and the following day you top them up and you keep storing. And if you keep storing and you are not expending, what do you expect? So your system would just be keeping them, and then you'll be bloating. And you are not doing physical activity, any extra physical activity anywhere. So that's what happens.
Yeah. And there's a lot of new evidence coming out. So there's something called your microbiota. So emerging evidence shows that depending on what kind of microbes you even have in your digestive system can make you, overweight and obese. So there are so many other stuff out there, but what we are interested in is what you can do something about. Okay, so yeah, research shows that if you eat well, you don't do those things Robert is talking about, eating late, good eating behaviors and all those things, you can prevent overweight and obesity, irrespective of all the other stuff that are coming out, whether microbiota, genetic predisposition, or all that. Your lifestyle, which comprises your eating behavior, plays a major role in preventing you becoming overweight and obese. And that is why we are emphasizing this. Yeah.
Wow. Meaning that individuals should do their bit, and then those aspects that you have no control on, you have no control on.
Yeah.
But then those bits that you have control on in terms of exercising, eating healthy, and all that,
you make sure
yeah.
So there's one thing I want to add. I mean, since we are still on the balanced diet, is the issue of portion size. The fact that we said, eat a balanced meal doesn't mean that we should just load our plates or our kids' plates at one go, and then they will just eat, and then maybe in lunch you load it again. Because I think the portion size plays a very a significant role in childhood obesity, and I think that we need to be able to give children smaller portion sizes, spread them throughout the day, maybe 3 times a day, rather than just give the child, a heavy meal because it's balanced, and then they eat, and then because they do a lot of, they run around, they come again, you give them. They may probably just be craving for the food, not that they are hungry, and then you keep just giving them. That may play a key role.
I also wanted to add to Mr. Boatin's question, now that we are talking about it, I might as well. So in the UK, we have something called the foresight map. You might Google it after the session. So it has actually broken down overweight and obesity for us. Okay. It talks about, it groups it into about 8 different causes. So food consumption is one of them. The food environment. Okay, so we live in an environment that is described as the obesogenic environment. That is not, you have no control over it. What we have control over is just the food consumption. You live in an environment today due to globalization, something we call the nutrition transition as well. There's a lot of unhealthy foods around. People live in communities or neighborhoods where they don't even have access to healthy foods. Okay, so that is what we describe as the obesogenic environment. You have no control over this. This is beyond us. This has to do the policies. The government has to work on that environment. Okay, so we are talking about just the one that we have control over, and that is not to say that we are blaming people. Most often than not, in the past, we used to blame people for becoming overweight and obese. We've moved past that. Public health doesn't blame people for becoming overweight and obese anymore, because we recognize that there are so many complex factors that comes into play that makes one overweight and obesity. One of them is what we talked about. Okay, an individual psychology, societal factors, your biology. All these play a big role in one becoming overweight and obesity. However, because we are public health nutrition experts, what we are interested in is in prevention. We want to prevent health, we want to promote health, and so we will focus on the ones that we can modify, what is beyond, what is within our limits to handle. Okay, I hope I answered that question for you, Mr. Boatin.
Okay. And then we've got another question over here. Do you advise supplements for children? I mean,
so yes and no. Okay, so at the moment, children are advised to take vitamin D, vitamin A, and then vitamin C as well, especially vitamin D. Now, every child is supposed to take vitamin D. But I guess we as nutritionists, we don't want people to get their micronutrients from supplements. We want people to make their first source of nutrients their food. Okay, so if you tend to encourage supplements, then people will not focus on eating healthy. So our recommendation is always make sure that you are getting your nutrients from your foods. Okay, except especially now with all that is happening, the knowledge that we've learned, we know that children, even adults, need vitamin D now. Okay, so yeah, there are at certain ages, certain children would need some micronutrient supplements, but we don't say that keep giving micronutrient supplements for school-going children. No, school-going children should get their micronutrients from their foods, especially fruits and vegetables. The variety will provide you with a lot of these micronutrients. Your dairy products will give you your calcium, your vitamin D, and then when you've been told, do a test and then told that your child has low micronutrient levels, that is when we say that you can take some supplements. But we don't want people to just make it a daily thing, apart from the specific ones that I've mentioned. Okay, and so it is important that you do that based on advice as well. Okay, your GP, your dietitian, get the advice from there before you just start giving supplements.
I think one of the reasons why parents would normally give supplements, and I think Hiba has been very clear about the supplements, because if you really plan your children diet well and then supervise their eating, and they are eating the right food, the right nutrients, they will not need any supplements. But the fear of children not getting the right nutrients always come when you have a child who is a fussy eater. They only fussy or picky eating. So let me just use that, picky eating. So they tend to like just one particular type of food, or they like to eat certain types of food and will not eat certain types of, and you are worried that because they are not eating a variety of foods, they are less likely they are less likely to have the right requirement of nutrients. And so you decide to go and get some multivitamin to come and supplement them. I think I know that there are a lot of parents who have these issues, and they try to go and get it and give to their kids. So we need to be able to manage that rather than go to get nutrients. And there are ways that we can manage fuzzy eating. There are ways that we can encourage children to learn to like foods rather than giving them nutrients. So one of the ways is, because I think I have a colleague, a food psychologist who I work with, and she has said that they've done a research that looked at various ways to get children to like, for example, fruit and vegetables. And there are a lot of children who do not like fruit and vegetables. So you try it in different ways. So you can give them raw, you can add them to different types of food, try them in a variety of ways. Sometimes you have a child who may not eat your food and then goes to Hiba's house and would eat the same food. So it depends on the preparation of the food and so many factors. So it is important that we get the kids to like the food. We get the kids to participate in the preparation of the food. My daughter used not to like food. And what we did was just get her, when the mother is preparing food, get her to be around, get her to get involved in, just picking the food and giving to mom. And it got to a point she started doing the things herself, and now she's beginning to eat. So the things that she'll put them together and ask you to do it, that's what she will eat. When they are going to school, help them. Don't just pack anything and give it to them to go. Let them be involved in picking the food that they want. They may go and bring it back, but the next day, try it a different way, and then you see that at some point they will begin to like that food. Otherwise, we'll keep on giving them supplements, and the more, like when we're talking about the portions, when we're talking about the Eat Well guide, we said that you should not just rely on one particular type of food group, because you may eating that kind of food too much may cause you more trouble than you think you are doing. So giving them more supplements, meaning that you are going to overdose them in micronutrients or the micronutrients that we know that they have a specific requirement. So if you exceed that, what are you doing? You are causing more harm than good. So just don't go to the market or Tesco or wherever and just buy supplements that give it to your kids.
Thank you.
Just add just one or two things to what Robert said. So about the fussy eaters, a lot of us within our communities tend to force the children. Research has shown that forcing the children to eat these foods doesn't help them. It just leads to more food aversion. You just make them hate it even more. So another thing is that just keep introducing it to them, not forcing. You need to do it for at least 10 different times. I mean, some research have been done. Some even say 16 times at different occasions. Not that you do it today, then you repeat it tomorrow. Okay. And then if I don't know, whatever it is, if try it in bits. If it's a particular vegetable that you are trying, like a lot of kids don't like broccoli, you try it today, don't try it tomorrow or the next day. Just wait for a while and try it, or prepare it in a different form and then try it again. So you don't do it just once or twice and then you end there. Okay, so do it at least 10 different times, space it out, just little by little. And then, with time, research has shown that kids like that tend to now start liking some of those foods. Yeah. And then make eating an interesting session. Okay, so most homes, kids are left to sit in front of the TV and eat without the parents. Make it a social event, at least one of them. I know we are all busy in this country, but try and make some of these events interesting. So because kids tend to copy what others are doing. Okay, so if you have other children and they are enjoying it, and at least once or twice you are eating together, that can motivate these children to also start eating some of these foods. Yeah, I just needed to add this to what Robert said.
Wow, thank you. Because a number of parents would I have worked with as a social worker would say that their child does not like to eat vegetables, and they struggle with that. And obviously, as a social worker, when I go into homes, families, I do promote the idea of a balanced diet, and I'll be asking, is the child eating nutritional meal? So parents are saying that, like this, no, he doesn't want to eat any vegetable, he doesn't want to eat any fruit. So that is a very big thing for, obviously, not just the Ghanaian community or the African community, but then a number of parents have this problem.
So I've just my is 5 years, and when she came home, just to try and get her to eat more fruits and vegetables, so I got a paper and I was like, let's draw a menu. I'm like, these, she knows, she's been taught that, she needs to eat, even for children, they actually even say 7 a day. They don't say 5 a day. So yeah, let's draw. What do you have to have this number of fruits and vegetables a day. So you tell me, which ones do you want to have? Okay, so we've written it down. So she is telling me what she wants, but within that vegetable group, okay, so I'm not imposing broccoli on her because she will not like it. I'm not imposing my fruits and vegetables. No, but I'm letting her know that she needs to eat from this group. She knows it, she's been taught, but I make her do the choosing. So parents are encouraged to involve their children in the planning, in drawing the menu. Even when you are cooking, as young as 5, 6, 7, let them help you. Let them help you wash the vegetables. And once they have invested time in doing this, they might own it and then want to try it. It might not happen. I know they're very fast out there, but we keep doing it. I mean, it's an investment, and everything is hard.
But there's even one paper that has said that reward is important.
And
just
praise,
rewarding them. Yeah, rewarding them when they are able to just even eat just a portion. Reward them. The next day they'll eat 2 portions. You reward them. So apart from the other strategies that you were discussing, reward is important. It's just like that's the kind of system that the schools are implementing. A student does something and they will reward you, so you see that you are motivated to do more. So
because that in itself is an achievement, isn't it? So we need to praise the child. Oh, you've done really well. Oh, good boy. Oh, good girl. And obviously children naturally thrive on praise. So once you praise them, they would want to do more.
Yes, and in this paper that I'm talking about, like say, I think the broccoli we're talking about. So they gave some vegetables to kids, and they didn't like it. So what they did is to mash it and add it to something else. So added like pasta, and then the children ate it. They didn't even know that was broccoli. So you can do it in different forms. You give them raw, they don't want, you mash it.
Yeah.
You give them mashed, they don't want, you mix it with something else. So you just have to keep changing the forms, textures, and everything, and then and implementing the other strategies. And before you know, they picked it up.
Yeah. So in terms of example you gave, so I mix vegetables. My daughter will not eat it, so I mix it, I blend it, and add it to my light soup. And she likes light. Doesn't know light, but if say mixed vegetables, I add it to the light soup. And then also I wanted to touch on the reward. Yes, again, just along the same lines, we also have to be careful when we are rewarding. But sometimes we also unconsciously reward our kids at home and give them sweets. So ice cream. We need to be careful. We're conscious and we are like, oh, if you do this, I'm going to give you an ice cream. That doesn't help. That just encourages that behavior again. And also, we shouldn't use it as a punishment. We shouldn't. Authoritative parents would say, no. When you are too strict and then you don't want them to have it at all, then you even push them to want to have it. So when they are not with you, then we need to have a balance. Okay, we should know what is right. We should know how much sugar we can have, but we should be careful in our parenting style so that we don't in a way to prevent them from eating unhealthy, just make them even want to crave their unhealthy foods so much.
Especially for African parents. I mean, once they say you should do this, you must do it.
Yes.
And if you don't do it, then your punishment. So for kids, when they are growing up, they want to be autonomous. I mean, they are not autonomous, they want to. So you need to give them that chance and then try to go with their pace. So if you don't do that, you want to force things, they will just do the way you want them to force them. But in the end, in the long term, you are probably just doing them, you're not doing them anything good.
Yeah.
Because I just use my daughter as an example, because we used to force her. She used to eat fufu. We will force her, we just prepare the food. We even ask her. We just prepare the food and keep doing it. But I realized she didn't like it. So we started these strategies that I was talking about, where we have to ask her to come and sit in the kitchen and start, doing the food. And when vegetables come, when you buy vegetables and she will come and pick what she wants. Even apples, she may just buy 1 or 2, but now she can finish one. So it is that gradual process of bringing them up that is important than just forcing them, like the way our fathers and grandfathers force us.
Yeah. And then we've got a question over here. It says that should chocolate and sweet be cut off children? Most of our children do like chocolate and sweet and all that. So how much chocolate can we give them? How much sweet can we give children? I mean,
so let me talk about sweets in general. We are in the UK. Our recommendation is that free sugars. I was recently talking about free sugars in a video. So free sugars are the sugars that we like, what we have in the chocolate, what you have in the cakes, the sweets, but also the sugar we use at home, the table sugar, the sugar that is found in honey, syrup. All these are described as free sugars. So the recommendation is that in a day, an adult can have not more than 30 grams. That is about 9.
About 7 to 9 teaspoons, yes.
Yes, and for children, 24 grams, which is about six teaspoons. Now, the 6 teaspoons doesn't mean, just the sugar you are seeing, what you are putting in your cereal or your child's milk, or it's all the sugar. Some of them you don't see. So the sugar that is coming from your chocolates, your sweets, your breakfast cereal, and almost everything that we give to our children have sugar. Okay, so even without you giving them sweets and chocolate, because sweets and chocolate, they are given as, most of us give it as treats. Without you giving these treats in quotes, most of our children are eating beyond the recommendation. Okay, and I need you to answer this question yourself. I'm just trying to let you understand that without you giving chocolate or sweets, we are already going beyond what we are supposed to be having, because the foods we buy all have sugar. The breakfast cereals, the drinks, even fruit juice that we blend at home. Okay, when you blend, or all the juices that are sold, they have free sugars. And then the recommendation is not to have more than the 24 grams for children 7 to 10 years. Okay, so if you think about it in this way, then really we shouldn't even be having these extra ones, because we are going beyond. But these are there to guide us. Okay, in the ideal world, if you want to avoid or you want to live healthy, you shouldn't be adding this, unless if you can count, you can check your food labels and be sure that what you're having from your other stuff, the spread you're putting on the bread, the yogurt, flavored yogurts, okay, the breakfast cereals, all that can give you your 24 grams, your child your 24 grams. So if you can be sure that you are not exceeding that, then having 1 or 2 sweets shouldn't be a problem. But every child, all of us, are having way more than we should be.
So I think, Hima, you said something earlier, like the obesogenic environment. So the environment where we live. So you live in an environment where, you can't avoid, that is the kids. That's what they see. You go to the supermarket and it is everywhere. So maybe, So our recommendation would be, don't encourage them to be eating sweets. But if you cannot avoid it, you have to watch what your kid has eaten for the day. It's sometimes sugar too gives you some glucose to be able to, if you don't have energy, can just give you energy to be able to move around for some time. But so if you cannot avoid it, and then you have to give them bits, like she's saying, you can give them something small. You have to watch what they have eaten within the day, because they might have taken a lot of fruit juice that contains so much sugar. They might have eaten other things, or even the food that we give to our kids. There's starch. The starch contains a lot of sugar. So if you
worry so much about it, but it already happened. Yeah,
exactly. So if they have you realize that within the day you examine and you think that the child has taken a lot of food that contains sugar, you can restrict them that day from giving them. But if you think that within the day they haven't been eating some vegetables, a lot of vegetables and fruits and all that, and even if they want just a little ice cream or something, you can give them. So just watch what they eat and be able to judge for yourself, because you are the role model. I mean, kids don't know that preventing them from taking it, they don't know why you are doing that. You need to keep on also giving. One of the advice is educate your children on food and nutrition. You have to keep on, no matter what age they are, you have to begin somewhere and start educating them on food and educating them on nutrition, especially the kind of foods that you want to give them to eat.
Whilst on this, I mean, am I right to say that whilst we are also promoting, healthy eating our children, as adults, we should, because children learn by modeling of behavior. As adults, we should be modeling that we should also be eating healthy food. so that it will be easier for them to also copy us and want to do the same thing. Am I
Yeah.
right to say that?
On point.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said it earlier that the kids would watch you and try to adopt the behavior that you, the parent, or even their peers do. I mean, there's a lot of research out there that supports this, that you are likely to try things that your peers and your parents, especially your mother, what your mother, eats or what your mother does, you are likely to emulate your mother's example or your peers. And if you even think when we're growing up, when you are walking with somebody and they are eating something you've never tried before, you want to try it. And so when you try it, and we said that when you try for a number of times, you are likely to develop some interest for it or taste buds. Then you start, adopting that practice, and you can't stop. So that's how the whole thing is.
For me, if you ask me, is the biggest influencer. It's what you do, the family environment. It's the way. So if you eat healthy, your child is likely to eat healthy as well. If you decide not to eat healthy and you're always eating junk foods, your child will grow up and also eat junk food. So yeah, if you ask me, we should be our models. We should be the number one people to influence our children's behaviors at home.
Thank you. Before we come to the question by Efwa Yamoa, I want to quickly ask this. In terms of healthy eating for children, at what age would you recommend we start giving them healthy meals or healthy, diets, being mindful of their diet?
So the Eat Well applies to except children below 2 years, because the Eat Well guide applies to all people except children below 2 years. But having said that, when you are between 2 and 5 years, all you have to do is just make sure healthy foods are available in the house. Okay, so you introduce it to them at that age, but you won't be able to enforce anything. Just make sure you have healthy foods and then just keep encouraging them to eat. Okay, so from 2 years, where you would have done the weaning, the Eat Well guide applies to everyone from that age. Okay, from 2 years upwards. That's what our dietary guidelines says in the UK. So start from that point, introduce it to healthy.
So such a very early age, so that they would get used to it, I believe.
It's so hard. It's one of the hardest things that people are not changing their behavior. People know, but they're finding it so difficult to change because it's ingrained in them. That's what they've known. Yes. Okay. So if you don't, people have eaten all their lives, and it's so hard, and that's why we have problems. So if you
it's difficult to change habits. I mean, if you go to I didn't know I can stop eating desserts until I'm married and I can't figure. So because I don't get to eat it, I probably don't really have it unless I go somewhere where they prepare it, then I eat it. But I don't really in the house if I don't get it. But when I was growing up, if you don't eat TZ, it means you haven't eaten food for the day. So it's difficult to change habits. Once you change it and you are able to sustain that habit, then your life would not be the same.
Yeah, so I believe we are saying that, for those parents who are worried that their kids are not eating, do not want to eat healthy food, vegetables, fruits and all that, we are not saying that, it can happen in a day. It's a gradual process. It is painful. It is hard work, but then, you need to do it and you would get there. And you need to be creative, around that and see what every child is different. Look at what works for your child.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't give up. Just keep going.
Don't give up. Don't give up. Do it for the child. Do it for the child. Don't give up. There's no magic wand anywhere which we can use to, do that for you. But then, keep doing that. Don't give up. Yeah. FY is asking that. So please, is sugar-free stuff good for them? Thank you.
So, sometimes in this obesogenic environment we always talk about, we as adults need to read food labels. When you say sugar-free, sometimes the products don't have sugar on it, but sugar has so many other names. It has about 20 different names. So you look at the nutrition label, you will not see sugar, but then you think that, there might be sugar in there, but then you think that there's no sugar. Okay, so we need to learn these other things. So fructose, honey syrup, all these things are classified as the free sugars we are talking about. So what I'm trying to say is that don't go looking out for the word free sugar alone, because it can be hidden in different names. Now, having said that, if you are very certain that the products don't have free sugar, because there are some products, they are trying to encourage products without sugar or with very small sugar. Okay, again, it boils down to learning how to read nutrition labels. If the sugar has been reduced, yes, you can give that. Okay, and another thing was the honey. I always want to emphasize, people think that just taking honey in place of sugar is the magic. No, honey is also termed as free sugars. So if you are giving you're replacing the sugar with honey, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. If you take it in excess, it will give you the same effects that sugar will give you. But if you find products that you are very sure has no sugar, I think there are some drinks that they are trying to produce without sugar, or very less sugar, that should be encouraged, or dilute it. If you have to give a drink, just let the children get used to the diluted ones, because then you'll be diluting the amount of sugar. I always like to mention the fact that a can of cola contains 9 cubes of sugar.
Wow.
Cola and other drinks, other fizzy drinks. Okay, so if you allow your children 10 years, 9 years to have fizzy drinks like that, that is them going beyond the recommendation. And you haven't talked about what you would have given your child for breakfast. You haven't talked about the breakfast cereals. You haven't talked about the bread and jam, all that. Okay, so we need to cut down on the drinks. Okay, I think So I
think, today's, we are not telling you just go and stop your children from taking sugar. That's not what we are saying. We're saying that as much as possible, try and cut it. And you can only cut it by knowing what the child has eaten within the day. Because if you say free sugars, sugar-free food, what are the food that are sugar-free? Everything, even banana has sugar in it. So we are not saying just go and stop your kids from taking sugar, but try and understand what they eat and know whether we already said that free sugars are the ones that are added to food. And in this country, I'm yet to see what canned foods that do not have sugar, because almost everything has got sugar in them.
Baked beans has it.
Yeah, I know.
Everything has sugar in it.
I know we are running out of time. There's no time on our side. So finally, I just want to ask that, we've got a few questions over here. Hopefully, we will have you come back on again, and we can have further conversation. But then, if parents and caregivers and families need support, because, for instance, your child is underweight or your child is overweight, and all these issues, what will your advice be, and where will you direct them to?
So, first of all, if you have concerns, you need to speak to your. First of all, if you have serious concerns about your child's nutrition, the first point of contact is your GP. Your GP would then direct you to a dietitian, and then that is Sahara Nutrition are at the community level. So we provide additional support at the community level. Okay, but if you have concerns about underweight, because there are so many other things that lead to underweight, okay, it wouldn't just be your diet. So speak to your GP, let them rule out any medical condition, and then let it be confirmed that this is strictly your diet. Or even when it's a medical condition, you still have to do something about your diet. You can't just medicate without diet. Okay, so if you have serious concerns, first speak to your GP, and then afterwards you can get the nutritional support that you need. Yeah.
Thank you. And then
I would just say that, if your child is putting on weight, you definitely know your child is putting on weight. So if your child is putting on weight, then it is easy to put on weight, and it is very difficult to lose that weight. If those of you who have been trying to lose weight, including myself, you realize that it's very difficult to lose weight, but it's easy to gain it. So don't wait until the child begins to have love handles before you now start acting. Begin to act when you see that your child is gaining weight. Start acting from that time. If you look at other kids of their age, and then you think that you don't want your child to be at that, you have to begin to act and give them just what we are saying is just a tip of that. You can go online and read a lot of, but just be cautious that there's a lot of information out there that is leading. So always, if you want good advice, the NHS site, you can always get good information there. If you have time, read the Eat Well guidelines, and then it will help you. And just encourage physical activity. We know that there's lockdown, but go out with your kids, let them play in the park, do something with them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, panel members. All too soon, we've come to our end. I know we've gone a bit over our time, so hopefully we can have you on again. But just before you go, I want you to give your final word to our viewers, what you don't want them to forget, the key thing, your key message to them. So we are having 30 seconds. Araba, what is your key message to our viewers before we leave?
So, yes, 30 seconds. Parents, what we give our children, what our children eat matters now, not just now, but also in the future. So let us try and invest in what they eat. Yes, it is expensive. It's time consuming. But if we try and invest now, we are saving ourselves as parents. We are helping our children, and we are preventing any or we are trying to help them to not be susceptible to diseases like hypertension, diabetes, which have been shown to be related to poor dietary behaviors from infancy.
Wow.
Let us invest.
Wow. Invest our time, invest our money, invest resources. Let us invest. We can't go wrong when we invest. Okay, so we come to Robert. What is your final word to our viewers?
Well, maybe just to add to what Hiba has just said. I mean, if you are invested in your child in terms of education, and you are not investing in their nutrition, then I don't think you are really doing any investment. Because at the end of the day, if they get all the certificates and they cannot use it, then you haven't done any investment at all. So it's important that you look at it in two ways. Their education, but nutrition is very, very important. That's the key. Because I think we are our children role model. They look up to us. So whatever we do is what they will do. So if you don't want your child to be who you don't want them to be, then you do the right thing.
Wow. Thank you, Robert. Yes, we are our children's role model, and they look up to us. Thank you so much, Araba and Robert, for coming and on here to discuss, to share your knowledge with us. We hope to have you on again. And to the viewers, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your comments, your contributions. And until we meet again, we wish you the very best.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.